Okay, now we'll talk about the fourth of the OWASP top 10. This one is called insecure direct object references. What happens with that? A direct object reference occurs when a file, a database, or directory is exposed directly to end users. So that's when the danger occurs. Who is the threat agent? Who can perform this type of an attack? Any user of the system. How easy is it to exploit? Easy. If it's there, it's dead easy to exploit. Attackers change a value of in a system, and you'll see the example of this. They just change a value, and the attack happens. So it's when the vulnerability is there, it's dead easy. So it is a common exploit. Applications often use actual values and direct paths, and when they do, then the vulnerability can be exploited. It is easy to detect. Testing, as you'll see, we're talking about changing values and URLs and whatnot. So testing is quite easy. Static analysis can help to find these types of vulnerabilities as well. As far as impact, moderate impact, often when there is one vulnerability, the impact of that one vulnerability or one attack is not that big, but if one is there, then many are there. So it's a signal to the attackers that this group of developers has not protected from direct object references, and shop around. Let's give an example of this. So here's a insecure direct access to a file through directory traversal. So if you look at the URL here, there's a file name, report, .txt is in the URL. So the attacker might say, okay, so I wonder what else is going on there. And then if you look down at the bottom, there's a directory traversal taking place where the attacker is taking that URL and the fact that they can change the file to play around, go up some levels of the directory and then shop around. And in some cases, if the attack hasn't been prevented, the whole directory structure, the directory listing might be displayed. And then when it is, then the file names are displayed, and then the attacker can use that information. So you want to make sure you prevent the directory traversal and the listings from taking place, as well as preventing this direct file access. So here's another example attack. Consider that you had this URL where in the parameter listing is this my account, and then under the cover, the value of my account was used within a query. And then you can say, okay, not my account, someone else's account, and then you change that value, and then lo and behold, the attack has taken place. Here's some other attacks. And this is really saying no security through obscurity. That's really a security principle that says if you think something is too complicated to figure out, or who would ever know that we use this file name or this variable name, they'll figure it out. So there is no security through obscurity. And if you look at these types of URLs, so if you have a URL like the ones on the top where you have view and a number, or view details and a number, just think that the attacker is going to say, view, that's a whole directory on views. What happens if I see if they have another directory update and I use the same ID number after that? Or view details, maybe I can change that to modify. And so they can play around with your URLs even if you're not using the GET protocol. They might try to signal off of your URLs and try to play around with it. And that's the type of thing that you want to protect from. Again, like the last example there, maybe you want to see, I wonder if they have an admin directory. What will happen if I navigate there? And so they might do that as well. So prevention, you want to validate input before using it. You want to make sure that users have access rights for any kind of direct object reference. And then a really important way to protect from this type of attack is to use a reference map. So just say on this example here where that ID is actually, say a social security number or whatnot, What you want to do is underneath the covers, you want to have in a database, maybe you have just the number 1, and the number 1 maps to that user ID 214810, and number 2 maps to something else. So you don't want to actually display a true employee ID, social security number, or anything that's real. You want to have under the covers a reference map that would assign an arbitrary number to the actual number, so that you're not exposing any kind of that information at all. Now, one thing I just want to note before we close is that we keep using within these examples where you're using the GET protocol, where all of the data is exposed in the URL. And that's really for illustration purposes. Hopefully you're realizing in your software development that you almost never want to expose any data in the URL, because users can update it so easily. You often would use the POST protocol instead, but do know that, as I mentioned earlier, that the attackers can change the HTML. So a lot of times people would then say, okay, I'll use POST instead, and then I'm going to pass some hidden variables. I'm going to pass some data as hidden variables because I can't pass them in the URL. And because the attacker can change your HTML, that is no defense. So just keep that in mind. Hidden variables are no defense, okay? You want to pass things through session variables in order to keep them more secure. So just to finish off with a comic, here's the preventer, Mordac, the preventer of information services. Do you know how the system distinguishes between authorized and illegal access? Zap? It doesn't.